I'm here today to talk about one of the bigger scandals of the Ministry of Defense in this war, Israel's war against Hamas, that started on October 7th, 2023. There was a massive shortage of safe tactical helmets, safe ballistic helmets. There were helmets that were in storage for decades, from 1978, 1979, 1980, amongst others, that were issued to soldiers that were not safe. Helmets have expiration dates. They were ballistically unsound. The Ministry of Defense went to try to get more helmets. The bigger PO was placed in mid-December of 2023. Half the helmets went to Galvian, half the helmets went to Armor Source. There was also some that were taken from Europe, but generally it was Armor Source and Galvian. The issue was that Armor Source was delayed for quite a bit of time. Just now, we are getting the first reports that helmets from Armor Source are making their way into combat for IDF soldiers in February of 2025. The issue, though, is how can it be that there were soldiers that were sent into combat into Gaza, into Lebanon, Judea, and Samaria with helmets that are now being replaced? Why are those helmets being replaced? They're not being replaced simply because they're not comfortable or they're a little bit heavier. They're being replaced because they are not safe. There was no tactical ballistic test that was conducted on these helmets that show that they pass the modern day NIJ level 3A standard test. They simply do not pass the test. So you had thousands, if not tens of thousands of soldiers that were sent into extremely dangerous situations with helmets that did not pass the test. The question is, who is responsible for that decision? Who knew that these helmets were not safe and didn't say anything or issue a recall? People like Unit 11741 and others stepped up to fill that gap and continue to fill that gap and provide safe tactical helmets that have ballistic tests that show that they are NIJ level 3A standard. But how can it be that the Ministry of Defense and certain people in the IDF leadership knew that the older helmets did not pass the ballistic test and still sent soldiers into the field with that equipment anyway? What do you say to the family of a soldier that died wearing that helmet? What do you say to the family of a trainee, someone who had not yet finished his training, who was not entitled to a safe helmet because they were still in training? What do you say to that family when they were killed in combat in Gaza? What do you say to the family of a soldier who suffered a traumatic brain injury while he was wearing a helmet from 1979 or 1980? And yes, there are some people who say, don't speak up about this. We need to be unified. And I agree about being unified, but we need to be unified about the absolute need to protect the soldiers and to prevent avoidable injuries in the future. And that's why it's important to hold those accountable. Whoever knew about it and didn't do anything needs to be exposed, because it cannot continue like this. It's not fair to the brave young men and women and old men and women who volunteer in reserves that they are given unsafe equipment. It is just not acceptable.